Check out what the satisfied Dan Gemus real estate team clients are saying about working with the Dan Gemus team. Visit dangemus.com.
I got to thank you for being a voice of reason in a sea of insanity.
Now back to the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show on AM 800.
Hi, everyone. Okay, welcome back to the show. Yes, I am Dan Gemus. I've got Joyce and Stephen in studio with me today. Now, before we get much further with them, we have our good friend Christian Janisse from Simplyclose in studio with us. And a reminder to everyone that this is our last show before the holidays. We always take a break, as you know, during the holidays, and we're back in January. So don't panic if you don't hear us on the air over the next few weeks. We are back mid-January. So we're looking forward to some R&R with our families, some of us taking vacations throughout the holidays and enjoying some time with loved ones. So I want to thank everybody, as I have throughout the show, for tuning in. 10 years strong on the show here, and we appreciate all of you and all of the support you've shown us over the last 10 years. Looking forward to our 11th year in 2025. But with us now, Christian Janisse from Simplyclose. Hey, Christian, how are you?
Hey, not bad. How are you?
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate having you on. You've been a great resource for us over the last few years, and we are looking forward to your tips again in 2025. So it's been a pretty wild ride, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I can't believe it's already December, to be honest with you. I feel like every single time I get the call, hey, what are you going to do this weekend? I'm like, oh my gosh, a month has already gone by.
I know, it's crazy. You know what? I have to say, Christian, that we have really loved watching your firm grow over the years as well. It's grown like gangbusters, and you can tell the community is definitely supporting what you do, and you've been a huge supporter of our team and all those out there listening. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Of course.
We're going to talk about an interesting topic today, eh?
I can't wait. So you're talking about leasehold properties today.
Yeah, so it doesn't come up often, but a leasehold property is basically where, I wouldn't say it is a life lease, but it's probably the easiest way to think of it, where you don't actually own the land. You own the right to occupy the land.
Okay.
There's a property in Windsor that specifically deals with this for a 55-plus community, which is why I thought it might be interesting.
Okay.
The prices, from what I can see, I'm not in tune with all the prices, but they seem to be generally lower, and that attracts people. But they are a little bit unique. You don't own the land, but other than that, you can still pass this lease through your will. The only reason why it's a lease instead of an owned property is because the community, per se, wants to be able to put a restriction on who can live there. So in this case, it's anyone 55 or older. If it's a condo, then it's yours. They can't make that type of stipulation.
Interesting. So are you purchasing the property, or are you leasing the property then in this case?
So you are technically purchasing the right to occupy the property. Instead of purchasing the property itself, you're purchasing the right to occupy the property. It's your property. You own it. Aside from that, the way that it's handled, at least in that particular unit, is it's handled exactly like a condo. You make monthly common fee expenses. That goes towards maintaining the grounds. Because in this case, the Southwinds property specifically, it's like an apartment building or a condominium unit, and they treat it exactly like a condo. So you make the common expense fees. It covers all the general expenses. They keep the grounds maintained. They have rules with respect to like garbage and maintenance and cleaning and all that stuff. So it is exactly the same, but it's a little bit unique because you don't own it. So where some people are shocked to find out is that you can't get a mortgage on these properties because you don't own the property. You own the right to occupy the property. So a bank, typically speaking, won't give you a loan on that. Maybe a private lender, but I doubt it. And then on top of that, you can still pass that through your will, but if your children inherit it and they want to sell it, there are restrictions on who they can sell it to. It has to be somebody who meets the requirements to join the community.
Yeah, it's not something we have seen much of in Windsor-Essex County up to this point. But again, as we start seeing more buildings popping up across, across the area, it might be something that we see more commonly, I would think.
Yeah, especially with an aging population, it might be something. It's actually good for what it's really meant to tackle, at least for this particular spot. I haven't seen a lot of them either, which is why I thought it would be interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
But with an aging population, it's advantageous for somebody who's 55 and up because they have a community that they can be involved in.
Yes.
But at the same time, they can still have their own space. So that's really who they're targeting, is people who can't necessarily live entirely on their own, but aren't necessarily at the point of being in like a nursing home. So they have their own space, they have their own parking spot, they have their own house, but they're also around individuals who are in the same like stage of life as them.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And it's, they are cheaper on the surface. Obviously, there's a restriction on who you can sell it to, so that's going to limit how many buyers you might have later on.
Sure.
But they do serve a purpose, and I think that they're kind of interesting. And with the amount of development that we have around here, I'm sure we'll see more. Agreed.
So looking forward to 2025 now, there's been, I feel like there's been so much movement in 24 with the laws and various, different statutes and what we're seeing happening in the business. What do you foresee happening next year, next couple of years? Is there anything on your radar that you want to watch closely?
Yeah, financing conditions. We still see that a lot now that like post-COVID, people still go in without financing conditions all the time. But in terms of the law, I think you're still going to see, we talked about the residential rental program. I think that's going to continue to ramp up. They actually did, I think we talked about it as well. There's a vacant home tax in Windsor now. So if you have a vacant home, they haven't really amped that up. They kind of hope that you declare it and people can report it, but they're not really enforcing it, or they don't have a way. Like, it's not mandatory right now. They're kind of just hoping that
a trial.
But I do think that they'll continue to push on that. I think you're going to see some changes from the landlord tenant board. I think that a lot of people are starting to get fed up with just the whole process and procedure. So I think that those are going to be sped up, or you're going to start to see, maybe not see change because laws are very slow to change. But at least start to see like conversations around like, what are we going to do about this? Because I have a lot of clients this year that have either been buying a property that's tenanted or selling a property that's tenanted, and the tenants are in tune with what the rules are, which is good to a certain extent, but at the same time, they're also starting to game the system.
We've been experiencing it for years. And that's, what I will say, because we deal with both landlords and tenants, and we touch base with Patrice all the time as well. I would say that there are more issues from a tenant's standpoint, meaning the tenants are causing more issues than you see bad landlords. So for the most part, we're definitely having more issues with tenants just not paying rent because they don't have to, because they know it takes forever, than we are seeing with the landlords causing issues for the most part.
And there's a lag between, there's a lot of tenants out there who had landlords that purchased properties, $100,000, $150,000. Those properties are now being purchased by people who have to pay much more.
Yes.
And the mortgages are much higher.
Yes.
And,
the payments don't make sense.
Yeah, the payments don't make sense. I've seen tenants paying as low as like $750 a month.
Oh, yeah. I've seen 500, 600. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that you'll start to see more conversations around that. But, yeah, I think the rental program, like the licensing program, they're going to be going full force on that. And then I think the vacant home tax, they also seems to be popular, not just in Windsor, like they're implementing it everywhere.
I think, in our chatting with Patrice a couple of weeks ago, she was telling us that we're starting to see rental prices come down a little, not drastic, but the pressure has come off a little bit, which I think is a good thing, because rental prices, just like real estate prices, have gone up so fast. It's unsustainable. It has been for years. And I feel for people, you used to be able to get a one-bedroom apartment for $600, $700. Now you're, $1,200 to $1,500 for a one-bedroom apartment. Of course, people are going to have a hard time, affording that. So it's tough to see, but I agree with you. I think this year will be an interesting year to watch from that standpoint. I don't know. Like we've been sharing the stats with our audience this weekend, and like I said earlier, prices are up. Prices are up 10% compared to November of last year. So, we've been seeing that month after month. Prices still climbing. They're not as high as they were at the peak, but they didn't come down that far, and they're climbing again. So we're going to end the year, close to $600,000 all over again. It's tough.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I've noticed that as well, that the prices never really dropped too far.
No.
And even now, I still see houses that are like expensive. Most of the houses that we have are over 400 to 500.
Easy. Oh, yeah.
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 So it's not back to pre-COVID or
No.
anywhere near that.
The
And
average-
they are going up.
Yeah, the average sale price for a bungalow, so something you'd see in South Windsor and East Windsor, a little bungalow, the average sale price was $472,000 last month. So a ranch, $679,000 is the average price for a ranch. You know,
Wow.
a raised ranch, average price $629,000 in Windsor-Essex last month. So, yeah, there's no doubt it's difficult. You know, as we see the rates continue to fall, which is great news. But at the end of the day, the prices of real estate are not falling, which is good for anyone who owns real estate. But for those trying to get into the market, it can be a bit challenging for sure.
Yeah, but the rates are still, like, from what I see, most of the mortgages that we deal with are between like four
Low
and a
force.
half to like 5%.
Yep.
And even like, you know, we heard about this, everybody was talking about, all these renewals are going to come up. I've done a lot of renewals, and the price difference is not significant enough. If you're going from like a 2% to a 4.5%, for most people, they're just figuring it out.
Yeah, they're making it work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget, and this is also, we're saved by the stress test, right? That's been in place for years now in Canada, where you had to get approved for a higher amount, even though your mortgage rate was 2.5%. You were approved for, I want to say it's 2.5% more. Or 2% more, so don't quote me wrong if you're listening, but somewhere around there. So you were that protection was there for those looking to get mortgages for the last few years, which is saving us for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I think because of that, real estate's just going to continue to go up. Not as high as COVID, but
Right.
the rates aren't. People made it seem like, the rates have gone up so much, like nobody's ever going to buy a house.
And they come
But
down
they
since the
still need
peak
a
too.
house.
Yeah, 100%. They still have to go somewhere. Exactly.
Yeah, people still have to move.
Well, listen, we're out of time, Christian. Thanks for all your help again this year. What's the best way to reach out to your team?
Yeah, they can call us at 519-997-3775 or email us at hello@simplyclose.ca.
Awesome. Listen, enjoy the holidays with Joya and the fam. You guys are it's your first year as a family of three, which is exciting for you guys.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
You're right. We'll
Merry
see you again
Christmas
in thank you, and we'll see you in 2025.
All right.
Thanks,
care.
Christian. See ya. That's Christian Janisse with Simplyclose. Again, any questions, reach out to him or reach out to someone from the team, and we will put you in touch. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Joyce and Stephen right after this, right here on the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show.